You are stalking a massive beast through the tall, silent grass. You can feel your heart pounding against your ribs in the quiet dawn. You cannot shout a warning, and you cannot whisper a complex plan. You and your fellow hunters must remain completely undetected by the prey. For 99% of human history, this was not a movie scene. This was reality, where one wrong sound meant instant and brutal death. Today, you comfortably speak around 16,000 words every single day to your friends and coworkers. But back then, absolute silence was your shield. So, how did your ancestors survive the deadliest predators on Earth and coordinate complex attacks before they invented the very first spoken word? Look at
As
your
you can
hands right
see,
now.
we've
Look at your
highlighted the
fingers.
fingers here
They might
with
seem
these handy
like simple
arrows
tools,
to make them
but they are
easy to
holding the
follow.
ultimate evolutionary answer. Imagine yourself roughly 300,000 years ago, standing perfectly still on the vast, unforgiving African savanna as the morning sun begins to rise. You are not the strongest creature out here. You do not have sharp claws, bone-crushing jaws, or thick natural armor to protect your body. Ahead of you is a massive grazing beast, completely unaware of your presence. Its sheer size could crush you with a single careless step. Beside you are three other hunters from your small tribe. In this harsh, ancient world, your survival depends entirely on their silent cooperation. The tension is suffocating. If you step on a dry twig and it snaps loudly, the hunt is over, and your tribe goes hungry. You desperately need to tell the hunter on your left to flank the beast from behind. You need him to move exactly right now. But you have absolutely no vocabulary. The very concept of a spoken, structured plan simply does not exist in your primitive brain just yet. So what exactly do you do in this life or death moment? You do not use your vocal cords at all. You use your entire body. You raise your empty hand, point two fingers toward the tall grass, and lock your eyes intensely with your companion. The silent language begins. The silent language of gestures saved you. But this was only possible because of a massive evolutionary shift that happened millions of years earlier. Long before this hunt, your ancient ancestors did something entirely radical. They stood up. They stopped walking on four limbs and became entirely bipedal. Standing upright did not just help you see over the tall savanna, grass to spot approaching predators. It did something much more profound. It completely freed your hands. For the first time in hominin evolution, your upper limbs were no longer needed just for walking. Researchers like Michael Corballis suggest that this physical liberation birthed the very first human language. It was a complex language of physical gestures. Without saying a single word, you could point to a set of animal tracks in the mud, directing the entire hunting party safely. You could mimic the massive, curved tusks of a mammoth, warning your tribe exactly what type of danger was approaching them quickly. You could easily issue a silent, urgent command to stop moving just by raising a flat palm into the cold, ancient air. How do you communicate complex ideas without a functioning voice? You simply use the only versatile tools you have available, your bare hands. But hand gestures alone were not enough to survive the wild. To coordinate effectively, this silent language required another critical and fascinating biological mutation. Look closely in the mirror today. Notice the highly visible, bright, white sclera surrounding the dark pupils of your modern human eyes. Most other primates do not have this visible trait. Their eyes are mostly dark, perfectly designed by nature to hide where they are looking. Your unique eyes evolved specifically to let other tribe members see exactly where your gaze is directed at any given moment during a hunt. It was the ultimate silent tracking system. A mere flick of your eyes could instantly coordinate a deadly ambush without a single sound. This combination of pointing hands and tracking eyes built your first societies. But soon, a new evolutionary cousin would complicate this silent world. You stand face to face with a Neanderthal. They are heavily muscled, perfectly adapted to the cold, and undeniably, beautifully human. For decades, scientists have fiercely debated a massive archaeological mystery. Did these strong ancient cousins possess the ability to speak exactly like you? Let's look closely at the evidence. Deep inside Kabara Cave in Israel, archaeologists made a stunning discovery that changed prehistoric history forever. They unearthed a tiny U-shaped fossil called the hyoid bone, dating back roughly 60,000 years, hidden deep in the ancient dirt. This specific bone anchors the tongue muscles. The Neanderthal hyoid is practically identical to the one sitting inside your own throat right now. This confirmed that anatomically, Neanderthals were perfectly capable of producing complex vocal sounds. They were absolutely not just mindless, grunting brute cavemen. Imagine their prehistoric camp. They likely had a language, using rhythmic sounds and varied pitches to coordinate hunts and share basic information. Yet, despite having fire and sharp tools, their language had a fatal limitation. It lacked the complex imagination brewing inside your sapiens' mind. Their heavy stone tools remained virtually unchanged for hundreds of thousands of years. They rarely innovated or traded with distant neighboring groups. Because their communication was highly literal, their tribes remained small, isolated, struggling to adapt when the fierce Ice Age climate shifted violently.
And
But
that
you?
is how we achieve
Your
the
ancestors were
cognitive leap.
actively combining those
By
early hand
integrating these
gestures
new
with
ideas,
specific new
we
vocal
unlock
sounds,
unprecedented
creating a
potential.
deadly new cognitive weapon. You were no longer just pointing silently at a mammoth. You were creating an entirely new shared mental map of the world. But human vocal cords alone did not build grand civilizations. To truly unlock the ultimate power of spoken words, you needed a catalyst. You needed something powerful to bring the tribe together, slow down the night, and literally change the physical shape of your jawline. As the harsh prehistoric sun finally sets, you gather your entire tribe around the most revolutionary technology on Earth, the warm campfire. As the harsh prehistoric sun sets, your tribe gathers around the campfire. This was not just a source of warmth, it was the ultimate evolutionary catalyst. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham famously proposed that learning to control fire and cook food fundamentally changed what it meant to be a human being. Cooking
targeting the
softened your
jawline,
food.
we see it
You no
visibly
longer needed
soften.
massive, heavy
This
jaw
means the need
muscles
for
to
the
spend your
tough raw
entire day
root is
chewing
eliminated.
raw, tough roots and tough meat.
See
As
how the
those heavy
brain
jaw
grows?
muscles slowly
That's a
shrank
sign
over
of increased
generations,
capacity,
your skull
firing off
shape
sparks of
changed,
brilliant
giving
new
your growing
intelligence.
brain much more room to physically expand. But the campfire did something even more magical than just feeding your growing brain. It radically rewired how your ancestors interacted with each other. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying modern hunter-gatherers like the Jew Hoansi to decode how our ancient ancestors might have used the campfire. She discovered a striking, universal pattern in human communication. There is a massive difference between what you say during the day and during the night. Daytime conversation is strictly for survival logistics. Under the hot sun, you are focused on coordinating hunts, finding water, and avoiding deadly predators. During the day, your words are sharp, direct, and firmly rooted in the present moment. You cannot afford to be distracted by anything else. But when the sun dips below the horizon, the terrifying darkness of the prehistoric night surrounds you. You huddle closer to the glowing embers. The fire physically extended your day. It pushed back the shadows and created a safe, warm circle where your primitive brain could finally relax. Wiesner found that night talk is entirely different.
Yes, it
Around
keeps
the
the
fire,
darkness away.
survival logistics disappear, and your ancestors began to do something entirely new. You started telling stories. The flickering light mesmerized your mind, lowering your guard and sinking the brainwaves of everyone sitting in the circle. In this hypnotic state, your language took a massive evolutionary leap. You stopped talking only about the mammoth you hunted earlier this morning. Instead, you started talking about things that were not physically there. You began to speak about the past, the spirits, and the concept of tomorrow. Talking about spirits and tomorrow was revolutionary. But to truly conquer the unforgiving prehistoric world, your small family group had to expand into a massive tribe. You needed more hunters to take down massive megafauna, and you needed more gatherers to find food during the freezing, brutal winters of the Ice Age. But there is a strict biological limit to how many people your brain can truly trust. You cannot form a deep bond with just anyone. British anthropologist Robin Dunbar discovered a fascinating cognitive limit. Based on the size of your neocortex, your brain can only handle about 150 stable relationships. This is famous as Dunbar's number. Whether it is an ancient hunter-gatherer tribe or a modern company department, groups larger than 150 naturally start to split. So how do you keep 150 people united? Other primates, like chimpanzees, build trust by physically grooming each other, picking bugs out of fur. Physical grooming feels incredibly good, releasing endorphins in the brain, but it has a fatal flaw. You can only groom one single individual at a time. If you had to physically groom a tribe of 150 people to maintain trust, you would spend your entire day picking bugs and simply starve to death. To solve this, your ancestors invented a brilliant evolutionary workaround. You developed vocal grooming. Today, you probably know this survival mechanism by a much more negative name, gossip. Language allowed you to groom several people simultaneously. You could sit around the fire and bond with 10 different individuals just by sharing an interesting rumor. Gossip became your prehistoric social radar. You could learn exactly who was hoarding food or who was a coward during a hunt without witnessing it yourself. If someone in the tribe was acting selfishly, gossip spread the warning fast. It was an essential defense mechanism against freeloaders who could endanger the entire group. By constantly talking about other people, you created an invisible web of reputation and trust. This kept the social order stable even when life was incredibly harsh. Do not think of gossip as a modern toxic habit. For your ancestors, knowing the tribe's secrets was literally a matter of life or death on the savannah. This newfound ability to cooperate in massive, unified numbers gave you the expertiage's ultimate edge. It is exactly why you survived, and why the Neanderthals slowly faded away. Fast forward hundreds of thousands of years. Today, you are sitting in a comfortable modern office under bright fluorescent lights, staring at a screen. A coworker leans in and whispers an unverified rumor about someone in another department. Instantly, your focus shifts and you drop everything to listen closely. As you hear the secret, you feel a sudden, satisfying rush of dopamine. Your brain rewards you immensely for gathering this hidden social information. Modern society often tells you to feel guilty about this behavior. We label it as a toxic habit, a waste of time, or just meaningless gossip. But do not feel guilty. Your physical body and your nervous system evolved for a completely different world, and they have not forgotten the past. Your primitive brain does not realize that you live in a perfectly safe, climate-controlled city with abundant food easily accessible from the local supermarket. Deep down in its neural pathways, your brain still firmly believes you are out there surviving on the freezing, unforgiving Ice Age tundra. To your ancient mind, social isolation is not just awkward. It is a literal death sentence. Being out of the loop means freezing to death alone. When you endlessly scroll through social media today, your brain is desperately trying to tend to the prehistoric campfire, checking the status of the tribe. Yet, despite having thousands of online followers, Robin Dunbar's strict biological limit still applies. You can only truly manage about 150 real connections. Your massive brain still craves that intimate, vocal grooming. It still needs to know who is trustworthy, who is a freeloader, and who is an ally. From silent hand gestures pointing at mammoth tracks to complex spoken myths, your ability to communicate is the ultimate weapon that conquered the planet. Today, you comfortably speak around 16,000 words every single day. You share complex stories, daily complaints, and abstract ideas with almost effortless ease. You speak mostly to people who will never physically hunt with you or protect you from a hungry saber-toothed cat in the dark. But deep down, your brain is still listening. Because for 99% of human history, one wrong sound meant instant and brutal death.